Hello, game creation class. It has been very difficult for us to actually line up to do a live lesson, so I just wanted to show you this to hopefully give you just a few ideas of um, what to think about while you're building your levels and some things that we could cover if I ever get a hold of you. So, this is a room I designed inside of the Unreal Engine. It's not finished yet, but it gives you an idea and what on a few things I want you to think about. Number one, while you're getting used to the game engine and you're doing all sorts of cool stuff and finding it out, and I've been really enjoying looking at your different pieces, and you guys are looking like you're feeling a lot more comfortable with it, now we can actually think about cranking it up a notch. Um, and I'm just using this as an example, not as a, hey, I want you to do this, but just something to think about. So the first thing is um, your light sources. Okay. So when you're designing someplace and you're thinking about what is going to be my main light sources, um, once it's actually built, and actually we'll take a step for a little bit of a step back, which is your story and the usability of whatever it is you're building. So the idea, let me hit F11 so we could see this. The idea of this game room, which, like again I said, isn't completed, but the idea is um, what is it I'm making and what is its function and how is it being used. And the idea of this one was that it's a game room, obviously, and an entertainment room. And I kind of built it off of the idea of how do I use my family room at home and what would happen if somebody gave me a blank check. I have to do a rebuild because the lights are way too bright here. But um, most of my time in my family room I spend with my daughter. Like 95% of the time when we're at home is inside of the family room. And the things that we do is we play video games, we watch movies, and we eat. It's a just a laid back, relaxing um, environment, and that's what it's supposed to be for me. So this is a very much scaled up version and has a heck of a lot more than I have in my family room. But it is influenced by bits and pieces of things and things I would also love to have. More things I'd love to have than what I actually have. But nonetheless, um, because of those three things we do, games, movies, and just general hanging out, food, recreation, I decided to build this environment based off of it being three sections. So the idea is that this side is the game area, the traditional game area, more like a bar, uh, restaurant, pool hall kind of a feel. Because I have some friends who are like supreme hardcore gamers, and I have some that are like, you know what, Pac-Man is my thing. So it has that pool hall feel and has things going on over here. I also love movies, so I've always thought like, man, wouldn't it be cool to have, those light boxes from the movie theaters? And so these are set to a missive, and though I'm not a big sports fan, I do have friends who are, so they could play the game. And I have to put the videos of these in here. But X-Men versus Street Fighter, Pac-Man, Centipede, and even darts, right? The next thing would be, well, suppose we're just chilling. I'm building this is going to be a functioning or peer functioning fish tank with some animated flora, plants inside of it and fish kind of swimming around in there. This is the bar drinking area with the freezer. And then, people can hang out, they could play cards, they can have I'm playing games food or watching games food, all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, I haven't updated this in a while because it still has my old 360 and then, so we could play games here. And then after we're all set, the whole idea was, oh, you know what? Somebody could press a button And then what would happen is we want to watch real movies, so we press a button, the lights dim, and these curtains actually close up the room into three sections. So this part becomes its enclosed theater with a HD projector. Got the track lighting I designed and across the floor to give a more movie feel. And I couldn't find a good reference of furniture that I wanted, so I basically designed this tiered platform and designed these reclining, easy to clean surfaces because my daughter's friends would come over and they might be spilling things. And you could sit back, and even if your friend here is in front of you, has a ginormous hat on, you'd still be able to sit back, relax, and watch the game. And these would be like thick curtains, and people could still hang out here just a little quieter and hear the movie, or even over here. So that's form following function. I could have just said a room with a screen and a chair and a game, and yeah, it's a game room. But I want to like really think about what the story is, how people would use it, what would be awesome that I would love to have connected to my house, and that was what led me to the design. Um, so that's the story you're trying to tell. Um, Light sources are where do you want to draw your focus? And this isn't necessarily the best example, though I have receded lighting and some track lighting. So your main light sources are behind these sort of plexi um, frosted windows that are up on the ceiling, giving a nice brighter light to the sides, but then they could dim down. And then, of course, the lights from the pool tables and just some track lights for certain areas like this, as well as some lighting coming from or appearing to come from the actual posters. Okay, so when you're thinking about that, and all of this was primarily modeled in Maya. You guys are using BSPs and starting to bring in meshes and just getting used to it. So I don't expect it to be like, oh wow, yeah, I did this in a week, and because you're working up to that, and you're building on that, and you want to try and push it. The other thing, and I saw a lot of you guys doing this, which I thought was awesome, is you'll notice I don't have a perfectly flat floor. I have areas that are dipped in, I have areas that are higher. These tiers, you could step up and down, walk between them, and a designed floor frame. And the whole idea is that you want things to be interesting. You want people to look at it and go, "Ooh, that's kind of cool," and kind of guess why you did certain things or what the form is. The other thing to think about would be playability. And so when you're thinking about that and you're using BSPs or you're bringing in your meshes, I'm just going to bring in something really quick. Let me just close this one up. No, I don't want to save it, but I am going to launch the engine again. And you want to think about what kind of game is it, or is it just a visualization of a environment? In other words, am I just trying to show off architecture, or am I thinking this is a game or a game design or a level? And to that, I'm going to show you just two things. I'm going to keep this relatively short. One of them is modular design, which we could talk about a little bit later, and I think you guys have already done a little bit of it. And modular design is essentially the fact of when you actually build an environment based off of smaller pieces that you replicate to build a more complicated looking environment. So the way of filling up an area is by having um, more things literally duplicating it, but don't look like you're duplicating them on purpose. So in other words, this right here is a modular design piece that I'm making. And these are the pieces. It's actually a package I'm probably going to sell on the Unreal marketplace. But these are all separate pieces that I'm putting together to actually make a more complicated, larger buildings, and I can put them together in different ways that I want. So I could easily go in and say, oh, you know what, I don't want there to be a ceiling, I want there to be another floor. So I would just take either these and duplicate them up, or maybe I would take these walls here and duplicate them and just put different textures on them and put them up here and add maybe double the amount of floors. Or I could even just extend it out even further if I just take, let's just take you, you. I would duplicate these. Oops, a little bit too high, sorry. Bink. And literally just start to build off of that so I could have a much higher ceiling. And literally just build off of that. Add the windows in, do different things to it. But these are all modular pieces. So, and some of them look very similar, some of them are a little bit different. Like some of these, you can just swap the textures out and make these storefronts. Or you could have walls or put them into whatever sections. And you literally could just kind of go nuts with that of how you'd want to lay this out. That's modular design. And then the other just last thing I want to show you is being careful of designing something that's a wee bit too big, because you are going to have potentially some issues when you do it, because of the fact that everybody wants to do an epic, okay? And the problem with doing an epic environment that's really huge is that the epic environments you see in video games tend to be what? They tend to be made by a team of dozens, if not hundreds of people. So when you actually say, I'm going to do that, here's an environment I'm creating that's a little big. It actually is quite big. And halfway into it, I'm going, what the hell was I thinking? The one thing that saves it is repetition of modular design, having these different pieces that I can go in and duplicate and fill up space and just put, I haven't fully UV mapped and textured these guys, they're just in for placement. But the whole concept of this is that it is essentially going to be a carnival. So if I show you what I mean, what it looks like in Unreal, or excuse me, in Maya, you get to see a little bit of where it's heading. I have a whole ton of stuff open right now, so we'll see how that works. But just to give you a little rough, if I zoom out, so as you can see, it is a fairly large environment, and I was probably medicated with a cold or something when I thought of trying to do all of this all by myself. So, but the cool part is that the idea is that I want to make all of this functioning so that you would actually have, oh, this is going to be literally functioning inside, with a working carousel, with little horses that are, oops, sorry about that, with the little horses that are going to be moving up and down doing their thing. And so it's just interesting because it's like, just imagine you see this in music playing, these guys going up and down, the Ferris wheel moving, and maybe even characters getting on top of it. I've done that before in another version of the engine. And then this being run by physics where the things are actually swinging back and forth and you can get on them and ride all the way up to the top. Bumper cars that are going to be inside. I still haven't figured out how I want that to work. But just looking at all of that and just starting to build, once again, modular design, buildings made from separate pieces. These futuristic tramways that are I actually designed to be on here, and now I kind of have them as hovering, and these piers that are everywhere, and going inside and being able to see these different environments. And all of that inside of here, where you'd be able to just jump in and walk around the concession stand, all this stuff here. Um, make that like an, if you know the Animaniacs, so make that the Animaniacs Tower or something relatively similar to it, and just doing it for fun and portfolio. Bathroom. So I want you to really start pushing the envelope and try to go totally crazy and have fun. And I see you guys starting to do it, and I want you to do it even more. And if we can have a live session, I would love to go over some extra stuff. We just have to basically set up a time, like the software that I use to texture this in literally just a few minutes, and just some cool stuff that we can do. But I need to be able to meet with you. So if you have questions, let me know. Your stuff's looking good, and I'm liking where you guys are going. I just want you to have fun. Have lots of fun, and basically, yeah, that was just a material I was working on with a flip book that basically changes the street lights. But definitely just start to have fun and think about how to fill up space and use image references. When you go off of just your mind, it makes it a little more difficult. Trust me, I know this is all this. I went off of image references for this pier, but it's a bunch of different piers and things, and just things I like this from this, and I like that from that, and just going in and putting them together. So these are like semi-truck backs, and but yeah, have fun and go nuts. These are all meshes. Meshes calculate easier. They could easily be BSPs. And what I would like to do is have a live session and talk to you guys about little tricks to make the BSPs look really, really cool and have different textures on them. And on how to do a lot of the stuff, just bringing in your stuff and thinking of scale and stuff like that. So let's set up a time. I'm thinking Wednesday at 5 if possible. If there's a better day, my schedule is kind of across the place. I try to go for evening because usually people are free in the evening. Otherwise, I might be able to do it on a weekend, like on a Saturday or Sunday night. But um, let's have a session so we can go over some cool stuff, and I can give you guys some feedback, and you can ask me questions live while I have the game engine open. Okay? So good job on the stuff you're doing. It's looking really great. Let's see what else we can do with the stuff and how far we can push it. I'm excited to see what we can do by the end of this term. Thanks a lot.